Hey, it's Berlin, and today we got another news story for you. So, for me, like what I'm looking at right now is this crazy story about a girl who died. She was just 23 and she was like in Rikers Island. So, like, I tend to find myself looking at news stories like throughout the day, and I always have an opinion on it, and I want to start sharing that opinion and just talking about it and just like contributing to the discourse. So, the story goes, NYC jail staff blocked medics from treating this 23-year-old woman who died weeks later. And I just like I immediately clicked on the story when I saw it because I thought like, wow, it's crazy. She was just 23, and life is so precious. So let's hear what happened. City correction officers repeatedly blocked medical staff from administering care to a severely ill woman held at Rikers Island weeks before the 23-year-old fell into a coma and died of apparent organ failure. So that's a scary way to go. And she was just 23. Like she was like literally like saw her life flash before her eyes, and that's really sad. So her name is Charisma Jones was receiving treatment for a possible case of scarlet fever when she was transferred to infirmary unit May 4 for worsening symptoms. But when medical personnel attempted to check her vital signs, they were stopped from entering her cell on six separate occasions by correction officers who cited an unspecified security reason, according to an independent oversight agency. So, okay, yeah. After 2 days of isolation, Jones was rushed to a hospital for rash, high fever, and signs of acute liver damage. So her liver was damaged, and she's just getting no help. And this is like wild, like this woman, like she really suffered in her last days. It really sucks that she had to go through that. Jones' death has sparked outrage among advocates and some officials, as well as ongoing probes by the state and attorney general's office and the city's Department of Investigations. Yeah, and as they should be probing this, but this is really tough. And you gotta stay out of jail, gotta stay out of incarceration, gotta stay out of those places because I mean, it's not, I mean, it's for people who have done crimes, and you gotta make sure that you're on the up and up because this is no fun. Like, look at what this woman's going through. If she was out in the street, she wouldn't have had to go through this. It's really sad that this happened to her. The findings comes weeks after a federal judge ordered the city to begin preparing for a possible federal takeover of the jail system, one of the country's largest and most notorious, ruling it had placed its incarcerated population in unconstitutional danger. Okay, so the feds are going to start taking over prisons. That's new information to me. The investigation into Jones' death details several of the chronic issues at the heart of the federal court case, including allegations of staff neglect and inadequate medical treatment. And so after being transferred to the infirmary, she was prescribed antibiotics for a possible case of scarlet fever, and she was isolated in a cell. But even as she was vomiting into a toilet, video shows officers repeatedly refused to allow medical workers access to her cell. At one point, stating that she was on Medlock, the investigation found, what is Medlock? What is that? Plant of the P. No, no, no. Like we need to know, like, what is the definition of Medlock? Medlock jail. There are multiple matches for Medlock jail, including a residential treatment center and a law firm that represents. Okay, we're not looking at the law firm. Is a secure facility designed to house individuals who have been arrested and are awaiting trial or sentencing, or persons convicted of crimes and serving their sentences. Hmm. Okay, what does it mean when inmates is Medlock? Medlock, when referring to an inmate, means that the individual is currently on a medical lockdown, which signifies they are placed on a restricted area due to a medical condition requiring special monitoring or treatment, preventing them from accessing the general prison population until their health is deemed stable. Okay, so it seems like they were trying to help her, but not well enough, right? So, but anyway, so according to the report, the agency has not produced records related to the refusal to grant medical access. An attorney for Jones' family said they were not aware of any staffers being disciplined. While it is imperative that individual officers are held accountable, it is equally, if not more, urgent to acknowledge and address the fact that Ms. Jones' death was caused by systemic rot and indifference to life within New York City's jails, originating at the highest levels of city's leadership. And then there's another follow up over here to the story. According to the surveillance video viewed by the oversight agency, she appeared woozy and unable to stand while in a general population unit May 4th. But after an officer called the health clinic to report the medical emergency, they were told there was no staff to respond. So she got no help. That sucks. That's terrible. Instead, fellow detainees tried to help Jones, rubbing ice on her skin to cool her off and holding her head as she appeared to lose consciousness. They became frustrated with the lack of response by clinical staff, so they became disruptive and refused to comply with staff orders. Eventually, they triggered an emergency alarm that brought Jones medical attention. After being transferred to the infirmary, she was prescribed antibiotics for a possible case of scarlet fever and isolated in a cell. But even as she was vomiting into a toilet, video shows officers repeatedly refused to allow medical workers access to her cell, at one point saying she was on Medlock. They didn't take her seriously, and that's what happens in these environments because in these it's really sad, and we can't like deny that. And obviously, but the point is that in these environments, there's so much going on, and there's so few staff, and for a staff to pay attention to one person, it kind of puts the staff as well like in a situation where they they may not want to be in, because they're going in there for a 9 to 5 for just their work day. And then when cases of people like being a correction officer or somebody in that environment, it kind of makes them become tougher because they're around people who are, for the most part, are in a environment that requires you to be a lot tougher than you would out in the public world. So that makes people like have a it makes you just tougher on the individual and on individuals because you have to be stern, and that there was so sympathy is seen as a weakness, and unfortunately this girl lost her life, and it's really sad. And so, but yeah, so that's the news on that. And if you guys thought this was helpful, just give me a like and comment. Let me know how I can improve. But yeah, so I want to join the Discord, so just let me know how I'm doing. All right, thanks everybody.